All right, folks, we're live, and hopefully we'll have a better time streaming than we did a couple weeks ago. Or was it last week? I don't remember. Everything's blurring together. But yeah, we're back. We're back with the Saturday shows. Hopefully this is all going to go well. So I'm here with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
If you don't set your audience, or if we detect error or abuse, we may set your audience for you.
And also Pastor Tom is joining us.
Hey, everybody.
And we got a few things I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about the Copa stuff. I want to talk about the Sonic trailer, interestingly enough. We'll talk about the Groyper uprising. That's all interesting stuff. However, the big story I want to talk about this week is guess who's back again? James McDonald's back. Tell a friend. James McDonald was the former board queen for the collective known as Harvest Bible. And after years of rumblings about what a psychopathic authoritarian bully he was finally outed in the beginning of this year, back in January and February, when audio had leaked of him saying a number of things, but the most egregious in my eyes was discussing a critic of his and how he wished he could put child porn on that man's computer. And the guy in question, I believe, was Mancow. Mancow, you may know if your boomer dad watches Fox News, you may know Mancow is a DJ centered out in Chicago, but his show's been nationally syndicated. He's been on Fox News a lot. Well, he had ended up, coming back to the faith, and he was involved in the Harvest Bible, and for a while was personal friends with James McDonald until he began to see through him. Pardon me. And the moment he questioned him was the moment things got very, very bitter between the two. And as I said, James McDonald was on audio saying that he wanted to put child porn on Mancow's computer. Now look, I've said some things before. I've been mad and said some things before, that I wouldn't necessarily want to have a unknown hot mic under me. I've said like, oh, I want to kill this guy, or oh, I'd like to hunt him for sport, something creative like that. Just something along the lines of, I wish to hurt this person because I'm angry. So I get that maybe it's not something to be taken that seriously. You can make that argument, sure. Though again, there is a pattern with this man. There is a pattern of abuse, of going after critics with hurt feeling lawsuits and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. Again, I would say something like, I'd like to kill this person. I'd like to strangle them. I'd like to beat them up. In Minecraft, of course. But those are just things I would blurt out of anger. I want to put child porn on his computer. Just would not pop into my head.
And here's the evidence for it.
People were telling me from the church that James McDonald was going to try to put child pornography on my computer to get me to shut up. Do you remember that?
The plan to put child porn on Harold's computer.
Would Jesus say that, guys? Would Jesus say that?
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's been times in the Bible Jesus was mad, kicked over some tables, maybe whipped a dude, maybe put a sandal in an ass, I suppose, but did not say, you know what I'm going to do? How does that even come to your mind? How is that even where you go with it? Because, you know what, I got to ask myself some questions. I got to ask some questions like James, and there's a good chance you might be listening because you are keenly aware of almost all your critics. James, are you in possession of such material? Do you know where to find such material? Because those are questions that come to my mind when someone says something like that. I don't know. As Glenn Beck used to say, I'm just asking questions. But yeah, that's what sort of comes to my mind there. Now, James McDonald was fired from Harvest Bible. Now, I'll say this. Harvest Bible wants to pretend like, oh, we got rid of the problem now. It's fine now. No, no, no. The entire leadership structure at Harvest Bible is rotten to the core. All right, there are systematic. James McDonald was a symptom of a systematic problem there. Frankly, what should happen to Harvest Bible is it as an institution should be dissolved, should be disassembled. I don't know, maybe the congregation can start a new church in that building, but the entire leadership structure needs to go. That's just my humble opinion. You know, just go. It's, you know, I'm harsh on the Catholic Church, you know, that when there's that systematic rot, maybe that's a dead branch needs to go into fire. Well, Harvest Bible's a dead branch needs to go into fire. And that's not that everyone there is, no. But the leadership structure, the systematic infrastructure of Harvest Bible is rotten to the core. So, you know, Harvest Bible, yeah, it's nice that you threw them out. It's nice that, you know, you're like, oh, we don't condone this. That's cute and all, but let's be real. They're not good guys either. But anyways, they threw him out. And he ended up in some other church, some other rotten network of mega churches, where he's now preaching. Now, he's not the head preacher, but he was preaching at like men's conferences. I don't know. Evangelicals do this really cringy thing where they would like to go camping. I get where you're coming from with it, but it just, so much church culture is so cringe anymore. But he was at the paper alpha stuff with the evangelicals. I just can't take it. But he was you know, preaching or whatever at those. He is in, while not at the top, he is in a leadership position within this church, within this new church. And he issued a statement on Facebook. Now, I read this earlier this week, or I tried to on the air. I was a few captains deep at the time, and I was just red with rage. And I tried to read through it, and I literally had to take a break partway through, and get one more Captain and Coke deep upstairs because I was enraged. But we're going to read through this statement again. This is his apology in giant air quotes. Giant Dr. Evil air quotes here. This is this man's apology. Luke, you go ahead and put it on screen, I guess. Can you go ahead and read that for us?
Am I looking at Pastor McDonald says he'll preach again, but Harvest Bible says elders?
No. Look at his Facebook post.
Let's see.
If you need to, it's on the Bechtloff Facebook page. We link to it. Also, he was rapidly deleting negative comments or any comments critical. So all the comments under it are nothing but people kissing his ass.
Where are you? Is it recent?
Should just be a couple of posts down.
I mean, I see the report on where he is now.
It's also on my personal Facebook page. I know we're friends. But it's the, I can shoot you maybe a link here in a minute, but yeah, it's his statement that he put on his Facebook page.
Oh yes, let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, it's his apology.
Send it to me anyway.
Hang on a second.
Pastor, let's preach again.
Yeah, it starts with like dear friends or some shit like that. Hang on a second. Because I don't want to get out of screen share. I know boomer tech hour. I know, folks. I know. Okay, spiritual boomer. I know. Okay.
A repentance announces he's on Facebook.
Hang on a second, Luke. Tell you what, I just
oh, here it is.
I just put you in the comment. Okay, you got it.
Here it is. I found it. Let's see if I can put it on screen.
So, good old James McDonald here.
Let's see. What do we got here?
So this is his apology. Again, Dr. Evil air quotes out the ass here, folks. This is his apology.
So, dear friends, I trust this timing finds you well in the Lord and glowing in your awareness of how good he truly is. Our efforts to work through existing channels in our former church have reached an unsuccessful end, leading to this release of words we have long sought to express. Our lifetime calling continues. Where is it? Our lifetime calling continues to be igniting passion in the people of God through the proclamation of truth, unquote. Yet God, in his sovereignty, appointed for me and Kathy his chastising Ephesians 1 and 11, Hebrews 12, 7 through 11, and abrupt termination last February from the church we founded and have loved for more than 30 years. It has taken an extended time of silence to see the Lord's hand, see my sin fully, and speak about it non-defensively. My repentance. I was and am and will remain very sorry for the careless and hurtful words that were illegally recorded and published.
Yeah, I want to. That were illegally recorded. You had to throw that in there, didn't you, James? Yeah, I had to make sure you. And he's not going to talk about what those words were. Like, oh, I don't know. I want to put child porn on someone's computer.
I immediately sent written apologies where appropriate, grieving.
Oh, and by the way, last I checked, Mancow says he did not receive any apology.
Go for it. Grieving what it revealed about the state of my heart at the time, as well as hurts caused to those who trusted us to be a more consistent example of Christ-likeness.
Luke, can you put the words back up on the screen too for us?
All right. I have no excuse, and I am truly sorry. See, I confess to all who have followed my ministry a regression into sinful patterns of fleshly anger and self-pity that wounded co-workers and others. These sins issues have been points of growth and victory as expressed through my preaching and writing, but I fell back beginning in late 2016 and have only myself to blame.
No, you didn't fall back into anything. You were, from as far back as I've ever heard, a psychopathic authoritarian bully, James. And you didn't cease to be that for, as far as I can tell, one damn microsecond in your entire career. This half-ass apology about, oh, the illegally recorded stuff, and I tried to work with my church and all that. I'm sorry, Luke, keep going.
Let's see. I wrestled with the stress I felt, the injustice.
The injustice, Luke.
The injustice I endured, etc. Yet over time, I have
This poor man, Luke.
I've come to see only myself and my own relational failing in the mirror, and with grief and sorrow, I ask your forgiveness. As for this, I have come to see my sin of handling pressure in a way that got things done, but neglected the priority of love and the presiding humanity of serving others first. Letters have been sent to those the Holy Scripture has brought to mind, owing what is true without reference to what is false. We are looking to the Lord to keep my focus here as long as it takes, in hopes of reconciliation with every willing heart. Failed decision making.
I hate this man so much.
This relational decline led to regrettable decisions.
Regrettable.
Such as senior staff transitions, with some of our best leading departing. By
the way, folks, I want you all to play a game here. I want you all to find where in these rambling paragraphs he actually points out something he did wrong. Because this is a Where's Waldo right here. Where does he act? Okay, like everything is like mild. Like, I had some hurtful words, and maybe I was just a little bit rough with people and wasn't quite as caring. Again, I want you find a specific thing he did wrong that he's confessing to here. I dare you.
My reactive registration from Harvest Bible Fellowship, the fearful and defensive lawsuit, the rapid move to walk in the word, to digital only, etc.
Yes, the lawsuit, by the way, the Maddox style hurt feeling law. I guess maybe that counts as a specific. The Maddox style hurt feelings lawsuit he launched against, I believe, Julie Roars. Also, the guys doing the Elephant Debt site. I'm honestly amazed I didn't get lumped in there. Probably Mancow too. I don't know. He went fucking Maddox. It was a massive spray of lawsuits.
All of these big impact quote retreat decisions were initiated out of the desperation I felt, and from my clear thinking today, I see how wrong I was. I recognized how these actions undermine team member support for my leadership, eroding the margin of grace between us. I am especially grieved for certain coworkers who felt wounded by me and deserve better. Those who have expressed it and those who have not. We had many moments of joyful partnership, the memories of which I will always treasure. I am deeply and forever sorry to each of you and pray in God's timing for opportunity to say that personally. Decisions by the current elder/staff, along with inaccurate announcements and recent public
Condemnation. Inaccurate announcements. Again, this is one of the most defensive apologies I've ever read.
Sign clearly the timing to communicate our message directly. With sadness, we accept that no face-to-face confession or truth advancing intersection will be forthcoming. The above matters are now in Christian arbitration, where impartial believers will hear and give a written, objective ruling. As we cannot give specifics, we are trusting the Lord for truth to be revealed in His time, and we covet your prayers. 2 Corinthians 3:5-6. Quote, you yourselves and your letters of recommendation, written on your hands to be known and read by all. Not that all are sufficient in others to claim anything as coming from us, but our sufficiency is from God, who has made us sufficient to be ministers of the new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life.
All right, I love this part. I love this paragraph here. We get to, after waiting many months in hopes of a pathway towards restoration, as if he thinks he should get his job back, I guess, we have been welcomed into the congregation of New Life Covenant Church in Humboldt Park, Chicago, a multi-ethnic church. Well, congratulations, James. A multi-ethnic church under Pastor Wilfredo de Jesus. I don't know. I'm going to say de Jesus. I don't know. New Life has embraced us in love, offering us a place to serve and the beginnings of healing community. Please know that God continues to work His work in my heart. We have never doubted the Lord or His word and believe He is not done with us. Well, I hope not. We are planning a future focused on preaching and teaching God's word, helping pastors preach the Bible more impactfully, living the mandate of Christ's loves, and being free from the weight of large organizational leadership, which was simply too much for me. It was just the stress, Luke. It was just the stress of all. It was the stress of all those people he had to push around that just got to him. It was too much. In time, we hope you will think of us as serving the Lord with gladness while we enjoy our kids and grandkids who continue to flourish in local church ministry where God has planted them. We look forward to more frequent communication. That's interesting because you blocked me. With you as the Lord continues giving light to our next steps. Thank you for your interest and prayers. This man is just going to be he's just going to end up rising in the ranks of this church. He's going to be one of their assistant pastors probably. And it's going to be like this never happened. And anybody who wants to point out what happened is going to get, going to get blocked, going to get shunned, all this other stuff. No one learned a thing. That's a thing that's frustrated me about a lot of this. No one learned a thing.
Luke.
Yes.
Aside from perhaps a admission of guilt, like I did this wrong, what else is missing from this apology that you would think to find in the apology of a pastor?
What specifically, Pastor Tom?
Well, what are pastors supposed to preach? First and
Gospel?
foremost. And what do you not find in this apology where you think it would be appropriate?
Congratulations, you've just been introduced to the teachings of James MacDonald, Pastor Tom. The highly, highly legalistic teachings of James MacDonald.
Do you see anything in here about Christ's forgiveness, about how I've sinned, but this is why Jesus died? I mean, you would think this would be an excellent opportunity to proclaim the gospel, right? I mean, that's what we say the gospel is. Jesus died for forgiveness of sins, yet it's odd that that really isn't anywhere to be found.
Well, he does reference the new covenant in his Bible quote from Corinthians.
Yes.
But that's as far as it goes.
So Paul references the gospel. And of course, that quote's sort of out of place too. And I don't think that's really what he meant in regards to quoting it there. I think he's quoting that.
It's self-aggrandizing his actions, making it analogous to what Paul's doing, which of course, yeah, you don't get credit for what Paul did. You don't get to associate yourself with what Paul does, sir.
Well, I don't. You guys just don't get it. See, you don't understand the injustices he faced. You don't understand that his wanting to put child porn on Mancow's computer was illegally recorded. All right, you don't understand. He was trying to do all this great God's work, and the stress just got to him. It was just a little too much.
Oh yeah, because that would have made sense in the first century church when you say, "But I was illegally spotted."
Well, Jesus was legally executed. So that whole process was completely legal.
Yeah. While we're talking about legality, also pretty sure the spreading of child porn is frowned upon by the government.
Yeah, they didn't even have a concept back then. Can you imagine if a church got away? Paul would come down this guy so hard for daring to do that within the leadership.
This man should never have been in any sort of position of power. Period. The fact that he's a husband and father and is theoretically the head of a household is more power than Providence ever should have trusted him. And the fact that everybody fell for this for so long with him, and not just him. These guys are a dime a dozen. That's the sad thing about this. The Mark Drisdolls, all of them. These paper alpha guys, and they always have the man up and marry that slut kind of mentality. They always, they're always challenging the men in their church and only the men. These guys, like James MacDonald would always go to these biker events and stuff like this. It's that classic boomer paper alpha. And we played clips on here before of what just the way this guy just oozes bully in every bit of his mannerisms. This guy never should have been in church. Nobody should have been following him in the first place. And everybody that was, in my humble opinion, and maybe this is me just getting blackpilled, it doesn't seem like they're taking a step back and saying, wait, why did I fall for this? What did I see in this idiot? Another church is just taking him in, and he's presumably just going to rise through the ranks of that church. When I'm not sure I would trust him to be the guy who waves at people in the parking lot.
Well, Paul Washer says that bad preachers are God's judgment on the land.
Low expectations within the church allowed this guy to come into power.
Low expectations, biblical illiteracy.
I wish I'd have saved the
illiteracy.
audio. You talk about, like, the quality of this man's preaching and all this stuff. Take what kind of a man he is out of the equation for a moment, and just look at the quality of his teachings. Again, highly legalistic. On many occasions, he actually said, "Oh, I prefer to err on the side of legalism over what's the other one? Over license."
Licentiousness.
Yeah, because then at least you're trying. And I'm like, well, I don't. I'm pretty sure Christ described your trying as dirty rags. But this man literally, from behind the pulpit, argued that wolves are evil.
Well, to that claim of, I'd rather err on the side of legalism than licentiousness, because you're claiming, you could argue this. You yourselves are our letters of recommendation written on our hearts to be known and read by all. Not that we are sufficient in ourselves to claim anything is coming from us, but our sufficiency is from God, who has made us sufficient but to be ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life.
An interesting quote there. I wonder where you got that. But no, I couldn't believe that when I heard that years ago, that this man was arguing that wolves were basically demons. The context of that, and I've told this story numerous times, but I'll tell it again. He read some passage in the middle of his sermon about where it described like the devil as a wolf or something. There's tons of those. And then he goes off on this tangent about how, because I guess the North American timber wolf was put on the endangered species list. And look, that's a whole different political issue. You can argue about, preserving an endangered species versus the rights of ranchers up in that area. Fine, whatever. But most people, most Christians at least, should acknowledge that, hey, we should be trying to not wipe out whole species, kind of stewardship of the earth, that sort of thing. But no, he argued that it was inherently wrong to put them on the endangered species list because wolves are evil, because the Bible says wolves are evil. This is the quality of teaching from this man.
He argued that.
He argued that wolves are evil because the Bible used a metaphor, which is, I guess, a word he doesn't know, described the devil as a wolf in some passage. Both God and the devil are described as lions, so I don't know what he makes of lions.
Well, he's also gave a clean bill of theological health to T.D. Jakes, who says that he is absolutely an Orthodox Trinitarian, so long as by persons you mean manifestations.
Here it is, John 10:12. But he that is in hearing, not the shepherd, those who oh, that's a terrible translation. Where are you? Yeah, it's John 10:12.
I'm pretty sure there's a couple of times in the Bible where the devil's described as wolves, because believers are usually described as sheep. So I mean, it's a pretty apt metaphor to, well, what's the predator of a sheep? I don't.
A lion.
Well, but
he that is a hireling and not the shepherd, who owes the sheep or not, seeth the wolf coming and leave the sheep and flee, and the wolf catching them and scattering the sheep.
Well, there you go. The Bible says we should run the North American timber wolf to extinction. James Donald.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. That was so unbelievably stupid. I heard that in a car years ago, because it's a radio show, was his Walking the Word radio show. I heard it in a car years ago, and I pulled over. I was so just shocked. I was like, what? And that was right around the time that the church I was involved in started to cozy up to these idiots.
What is this thing he's talking about in the background?
Let's see. Let me get this going.
Survey says.
Christopher Columbus, where are you going? I'm going to find out if there's anything else out there. Dude, you're going to fall.
God, I hate. Oh,
Whatever,
stop. Pause for a second, Luke. Just a pet peeve of mine. I cannot stand that cadence he has. You see, I'm talking like this, but then I'm talking like this to try to. That paper alpha BS, I can't stand it.
Oh, this is perfect. The very next verse. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Perfect. Perfect for James McDonald.
Oh, man. How did anyone fall for that? And again, you can point to... You don't have to look far to find another one of these guys. Oh, here's a fun story. My dad told me this, and James McDonald was speaking at the one church here in Lancaster that was cozying up to them, and it was this big event because was this big star then. Well, anyways, one of the people in the audience was what do you call it? It's somebody my dad's age, but in the 50s there was some sort of drug they were giving pregnant women that was causing these birth defects where babies came out basically with their limbs so deformed they were almost like flippers. I can't remember what the drugs. It's like fluoride,
thalidomide,
something like that.
Was it in the 60s?
50s, 60s, something around that. But anyways, one of the guys at the church was that, and it was, they're not. It was a physical deformation. It wasn't any kind of. It didn't affect your. There you go, stuff like that. It didn't affect your mental attributes. So this was a guy. He'd done all well for himself. He was a member of that church, and he had something with computers. Who knows? I don't know. But James went up and made a point of formaldehyde. Thank you, British James. But McDonald made a point of going up to that guy and making sure he spent extra time on the meet and greet with that. And my dad heard him walk off and say to his assistant, "Make sure I." British James ruining my. He says it's in the same drug family as Sam Hyde. Yes, thank you. Made me lose my train of thought. But anyways, McDonald said to his assistant, "Make sure I always meet those kinds." Which at the time my dad thought, oh, it was make sure, my dad took that a little better at the time when he heard that, but now you can tell it's because that's a photo op. Look, I'm being nice to Timmy over here. Which isn't fair because it's not a mental thing, but that's a photo op. That's the kind of phony that guy is. I love that Ron White had a bit about the comedian Ron White had a bit about shaking the hand to somebody that had that condition, and he goes the guy just put his flipper out and for me to shake without warning me, and it was like, look buddy, you just got to warn me on that. I'll shake your flipper, I'm fine with that, but I can't just grab that not expecting it, not expect a reaction out of me. I'm sorry. I'm the human.
Is this supposed to be a Sunday sermon that's happening in the background?
I don't know. It looks like he's playing Family Feud in the background. I don't know.
Let's see what this is.
Everyone was like me. So melancholy, the melancholies are the analytics. That's their main focus. They have it analyzed totally. What they need is they need precision or preciseness.
God, are we going to start talking about endomorphs and ectomorphs?
Xenomorphs rise up. Is this a chart he pulled out to show how he should run society? Oh, jeez. Oh. Ectomorphs rise up. Oh, Lord. I'm sorry, real quick, we got a super chat, which I did not read yet. John Steele sends a super chat of $2 and says Blood Eagle. I assume he's referring to doing that in Minecraft. Thank you very much for the super chat. Oh. I mean, Pastor Tom, you're obviously a little deeper in the guts of Christian culture than I am. What do you do about all this sort of stuff? Because it just sort of seems like this kind of thing just happens over and over and over again, and nobody learns a thing.
Well, first off, I mean, it's not exactly true to say nobody doesn't learn anything, because these guys, number one, of course, I knew who Mark Driscoll was, but I didn't know until Perry Noble was till he kind of rescinded the Ten Commandments, and I didn't know who James McDonald was till I met you. So these guys aren't nearly as popular, in a lot of places as they sort of make themselves out to be. But the other thing is that when these kind of things happen, they kind of come back, but they don't really come back like the way that they were. It very rarely goes back to being that way. And the thing is that these guys were, it was the perfect climate for the church growth guys, and they were sort of, at least for Driscoll, one of the things that made it hard for him is that on one level he had at least in terms of how it sounded, a lot of his doctrine, at least, sounded solid. I mean, he would talk to John Piper, he would share a lot of things from that, he would go through things, so it seemed, I think that's what drew a lot of people in. I'm not as familiar with uh James's teaching, so James McDonald's teaching, so I can't say a whole lot, except for his utilization of Second Corinthians and his apology. I think is sort of random. I don't think he's really using that appropriately. And of course, again, I would have expected to have seen the gospel proclaimed in an apology like that. That's a perfect opportunity to preach the gospel, but it was a lot of legalism in regards to his own apology. So that's sort of telling. But aside from that, I mean, again, I hate to be just, blunt here, but you just kind of keep preaching the word, and then when people bring these people up, you can either, if it's an appropriate time, you can kind of be like, well, no, actually you don't need to worry about that guy. Or if it's not an appropriate time, you just kind of cringe. I mean, it's the same thing when people bring up Beth Moore, you're just like, you know and sometimes it's appropriate to be like, nah, she's not a reliable teacher, these guys aren't reliable. And then sometimes it's like, again, you just sort of cringe.
I feel like. Oh, go
It's a
ahead.
dime a dozen. I mean, again, it's one of those things to where, the church just they're just ignorant. Just so many people are just so ignorant of everything in Scripture. You'd be amazed about how many people they're like, I never knew this was in the Bible, or where's this in the Bible? And one person, I remember when I first started preaching, I preached a sermon on the Trinity. And a guy came up to me after church and he said, I've been in church for 30 years, and that's the first sermon I've ever heard on the Trinity. Now,
Jeez.
maybe he just forgot. Maybe he's heard one before and he just forgot. But still, that's pretty amazing.
About it, and we don't want that. I was thinking of the same word. Okay. Go home.
It just, one of the things, and it's sort of a white pill, but I feel like there's a big disconnect between what Christian culture, what the church, whatever you want to call it, is at sort of a local level versus who always seems to represent us on the national stage.
There is. I mean, I think so. I mean, again, a lot of the pastors that I know around where I live are really solid guys. They just wanting to preach the word. They're wanting to help people. I mean, again, they're just really solid. Even if I don't always agree with them on everything. I mean, the guy who's associational missionary that I work with. I mean, he and I are really good friends. Again, he's a strong Christian. But yeah, I mean, when you get to the national, when you get to these big shot names, there's a reason why they're so popular. The thing that I think, if anything, I guess evangelical culture or SBC culture or whatever you'd want to call it needs to learn is that, just because somebody's popular doesn't mean that they're actually teaching anything worthwhile. And usually it's the opposite. And like you said, man, I mean, this sort of, paper alpha, this, tryhardism kind of sense, I'm not the big manly man, this kind of stuff. It always gives me an ill feeling. I always had a weird feeling about Mark Driscoll back when he was preaching. Every time I would listen to him, I was like, there's just something off with this guy. He's trying too hard to sound like he's this really devoted, really hardcore kind of guy. What's going on here? And again, you can get pastors who are very hardcore. I mean, like Paul Washer, you want somebody to make you feel small, you want somebody to bring the weight of God's law, listen to Paul Washer. But he doesn't come across like Mark Driscoll. He doesn't come across like, just from what I've heard, the little bit I've heard, like James McDonald. It's completely different. I mean, here's to show you the kind of humility of Paul Washer. He had some medical issues, and so he was in the hospital. And Lord help him, he ended up watching a Joel Osteen sermon was on the TV, and so he couldn't change the channel, so he kind of had to sit there and watch it.
Oh.
But one of the things he
So
recognized,
he
said,
briefly passed through hell? Is that what you're telling me?
right, But thing is that he came away with that. And remember, he's saying, this is what really stuck out to me about Reverend Washer. He said, I didn't agree with hardly anything that Osteen said in that sermon, but one thing that I came away with that shows that he does better than me. He was encouraging his people, and it taught me that I'm not nearly encouraging enough as a pastor, and I should be. And when you can draw something like that from Osteen, the guy who's basically the punchline of just about every kind of serious pastor out there, and you can show how you can learn something from him. Like I said, I think that's genuine humility.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
that's
impressed with that.
Between,
I couldn't do that.
No, I mean that's the difference between, like I said, someone like Washer, who again is about as hardcore and devoted. Like I said, you want to see what the law looks like. I mean, let him preach it. I mean, he preaches the gospel too, but he knows how to bring the law, man. I mean, like I said, anytime I feel good about myself, I listen to him. It makes me feel otherwise, but little joke, but it's very different from these other guys, and very different from somebody else that I remember listening to who used to teach a class who basically said, if you cheat in this class, I hope God strikes you down dead. It's like that kind of, again, I don't know how to put it. I don't really want to say try hard, but it just comes across as like he's trying way too hard to sound like he's devoted, to sound like he's manly.
My
So
biggest,
I guess, instead of a paper alpha, it would be like a, I don't know, paper saint.
it always struck me as a certain authoritarianism with a McDonald and a certain legalism with him that just permeated like every aspect. And again, there's so many others like him, but just permeated every aspect of it. We played a clip on here months ago when we were covering this originally of I guess he was teaching some class or something. It looked like, I want to say it was college age kids or something. And this one kid was sort of slouching in his desk a little bit, and McDonald just proceeded to he went up to him and smacked him or something, or stood up straight and proceeded to for almost a solid minute berate this kid. When okay, first of all, you could argue you shouldn't care because it's it's a teenager and it's probably like 8 a.m. He's probably kind of tired. But okay, if you want him to sit up straight cause of respect or whatever, and just be like, sit up straight, and then that's the end of it, because he did. But okay, play it. You know what? Yeah, they'll let me describe it. Let's play it. It's uncomfortable, but let's play it.
Let's see what we got here.
One specific thing. Sit up straight. So you can just pay attention a little better. Just sit right up. Put your hands off the chair. Just sit right up like that. Good. All right. Don't let me see you sleeping again, or I'll throw you right out of here. I'm not even joking. Get your hand off the back of the seat. Pay attention in class. Stop wasting my time. You hear me? You hear me? Yes, sir is your answer. Say yes, sir. All right. Don't make that mistake again.
What a dick!
The Bible doesn't drill.
What a dick! Like I'm physically uncomfortable watching that. I would be physically uncomfortable being in a room with that. Like, okay, fine. Like, oh, sit up straight. Which again, I wouldn't care if I was in his position. If but whatever. But okay, sit up straight. No, you grab him by the scruff of the neck and
well, I mean, why? That's not necessary, right? I mean, that's the thing is, you could be like, hey, you getting this? Are you paying attention? You got this?
Yeah, sit up straight. Okay, fine. But call me sir. What is this? What are you, a leather daddy? What's going on here? Oh. I'm sorry. I'm just what a dick. and again, just tons of examples. Just that's him all the time.
It's a bibliology class. First, I was like, that's a biology class.
I like the tweet too. It's like, please note, this isn't the incident Julie Roars wrote about. Of course not. Of course, there's still a bunch.
That's nice.
On one level, I know why somebody like that rises to power, because power is what he covets.
Well, you
But
got to think about it like this too. If you've got a bunch of, sissy pastors, someone who comes along who presents himself as what, being authoritative, being manly, well, people will gravitate to that because of the vacuum.
yeah, I agree with that. And that's this weird dichotomy where we either have like the really effeminate weasels, you know, or 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 the guys like this, and
The paper alpha.
yeah, and I don't want either one of those guys in charge.
But yeah, like I said, though, I mean, my opinion, it's not the same as it was. It's not the same situation. A lot of people have recognized that a lot of these methods employed by the whole church growth movement have not worked out the way that people thought that they would. I mean, contemporary music is still popular. There's still a lot of pastors who think that that's a good way to go, but I don't hear about it nearly. I used to hear that all the time from a lot of people that you got to be pushing your church to go contemporary. You got to get rid of all that traditional stuff and everything because that's how you're going to get people in there, and your congregation, they're just going to have to deal with it, or you're going to have to wait for some people to die, or as they would call it, divine departures, as they would say. But I don't hear as much of that anymore. Like I said, I think a lot of people have really recognized just that has not led them to where they wanted to be.
I'm so tired of people fighting about music.
Kingdom, that's the thing.
I'm so tired of people fighting about music in the church. It's so exhausting because I don't care one way or the other. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna play some music for God. Does anybody know how to play these instruments? Go up there and do it. And I realize for a lot of small churches, it's probably easier to find someone who can play guitar and drums than a pipe organ. But whatever, do whatever you want. Like, stop fighting. It's so stupid.
What I care about is
we have to be contemporary to get the kids. Like, no, you don't. Nobody cares.
What is this?
Oh, this used to be the big. What in the world?
Go ahead, play. I want to know what this is all about.
Let's see. What we got?
I mean, how many people? You see Jeff Donaldson coming here. This is going to be a good minute, right? Right? Am I right? And thank God for him and all of the pastors on our staff.
This is the weirdest episode of Whose Line Is It Anyways I've ever seen. Like, what are you even doing? Oh, keep going, Luke.
On our staff in Drew Schmitz, who was arguing right up to the start of the service whether he was one or not. Not disappointing in any way. Here's a top-notch pastor right here. Come stand right here.
I'm sorry. Pause for a second. Forgive the dumb public school kid. Does anybody know what any of these fucking things mean?
The categories of people like alpha and beta.
Chloraic? That's is that referring to calorie count? What? I don't know what any of these words mean. Forgive the dumb public school kid here. What is Mr. Clean going on about over here?
For personal distribution.
Luke, I sent you a video in the chat that you got to play.
Let's see, what is this?
That's perfect.
Max Holliday's Birdcage Theater presents Church Day Select.
What is this?
Oh, I don't know when. I was ready. You're different? Huh. That's like a damn moment. Of course you're different. You're a man. She's a woman. She's beautiful. You're not. You're different. She gets pedicures.
What is
the video? This guy was.
Am I having no? Am I having a stroke, or does he sound like that?
He doesn't really sound like that. But
does anybody smell burnt toast?
That's what he's saying in the real sermon, but somebody kind of dubbed over it.
Okay, I thought for a minute he was making that voice.
But that's what he's actually saying. But it's this whole thing where this guy eventually gets to it, where like this guy's kind of like making people cry out from the audience, and one person's like, "Is any of this stuff in the Bible at all?"
Here it is.
Scripture at all? Has he read any scripture at all? What does this have to do with the Bible?
I found this. I wanted to read it. It's called Computers, Male or Female. It highlights the differences between men and women.
Well, it ain't scriptural.
A professor broke up a class. He put the men on this side. He put the women on this side. He said to the men, "Tell me the reasons you think computers are female." Told the women, "Tell them the reasons you think computers are male." They came with this. Students responded that computers are female. Males said computers are female because, number one, no one but their creator understands their internal logic.
What?
God, you know what? Like, I get, like, pastors will use, like, some funny little story at the beginning that ties into the point of whatever they're covering. I get that. That's fine. Like, but, yeah, I've noticed this a lot, too, where, like, guys will just be going on about some random bullshit for, like, for what feels like a week of sitting there. Like, is there a point to this?
I hate long illustrations. I really do. I mean, most of my illustrations, I try to keep them. I mean, I know it's just a pet peeve of mine, but gosh, I can't stand it with illustrations go on for forever. I'm like, get to the point. Because, I mean, by the time you've listened to about 2 seconds of the illustration, you already know the point that he's going to make. So it's like, get to the point. Come on.
I thought he was making that voice for a minute there. I really did. Like, I'd have believed it if you'd have told me.
No, that's what the guy does. There's another one where he does like a dub over Furtick's famous speech, because like a lot of people were calling out Stephen Furtick back in the day for a lot of his poor theology and that kind of stuff. So he did a speech called "Hey Haters," and this guy did a dub over it, and it's hilarious. I mean, listening to Stephen's original speech is pretty funny too, though, just because he's so full of himself.
Harvest Chapel Star Chain.
Oh no.
What are we listening to here? Christian Pirate Christian Radio. Uh-oh.
Henry Wigan, you have been summoned here to answer for your crimes against the church.
Hold on. What crimes? All I know is that an hour ago I was sound asleep in my own bed, minding my own business, and then you people broke into my house, threw a black bag over my head, and then forcibly dragged me to this horrible place. And you, you have the audacity to tell me that I've committed a crime.
Silence! We will not tolerate insolence from the mouth of the guilty.
Ooh, who was that?
Real quick, we got a super chat from some dude, Sam. He says, "Is there a mega church where the altar doesn't look like the set of a TV game show?"
No.
I don't believe so. No.
Just MacArthur's church.
If not that, then it's like it looks like
Jesus.
Yes, thank you very much, Conan. We'll read that here in a second. If not that, it looks like a halftime show in the middle of the Super Bowl, because a lot of those mega churches look like a sports arena to me.
Well, you see, people like going to sports arenas, so if we make our church look like a sports arena, then people will want to go there.
You know, as much as I crap on the Catholics for being obsessed with everything has to be in Latin and everything, it has to be the old style music, and it has to be this and it has to be that. You're not. A lot of these mega churches, you're not breaking away from that. You're not just trying to have some freedom and say, look, we can do different styles. Style is just style. No, you're trying to do the opposite of that because I don't know. You want to look cool. Okay, the pastor wants to. He's gonna turn the chair backwards and sit in it with his legs around it, and turn his hat backwards and rap with the kids. Like,
well, he sat in the chair backwards like we do. Let's listen to him.
Like, no, you can. Like, maybe just try and be a human being up there. I don't know. I don't know. That's just a thought. Conan the Destroyer sends $10. Thank you very much, sir. Mainstream evangelical culture is very cringe. You know, I was talking with Pastor Tom, and I was talking about some frustrations I have, you know, with church culture and how I've never fit into it and how I'm so frustrated. I don't even want to try anymore because it's just, it's all terrible. It's all just so terrible.
Well, okay, in defense of the one church culture thing, camping's not bad. I enjoy camping. I don't know why you think that's cringy to go camping.
I would rather have a tarantula lay eggs in my ear than be alone in the woods with James McDonald.
I'm not saying go camping with James McDonald. I'm just saying go camping in general. I don't know, man. I guess I just like the outdoors.
Yes, Vicar.
I'm pretty sure being alone in the woods with a man of James McDonald's character is how a horror movie starts. Like, he just pulls out a rifle. He's like, you got a 10-minute head start, boy.
This is clearly the first generation in the history of the world that is incapable of believing the gospel unless it is presented to them within the context of the day's popular secular music. Great.
Oh, we skipped frames a little bit ago. Everybody hear me? Hopefully everybody can hear. We had a little skippage here.
Half the youth told me that if we ever tried such a desperate gimmick again, they'd leave the church forever and become unabashed pagans. Yes, and the other half told me they'd become Presbyterians, which is much worse.
Boy.
But yeah, a lot of it is very, very cringy. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, every time I'm surprised just how much of it I'm really not into. I mean, I've begun to kind of get more into it, but on my channel, I had John Harris on, and he was talking about all this stuff. He's really, like, if you want to know someone who's a lot more into the culture and the inner workings and everything, go to his channel, Conversations That Matter. He knows a whole lot more about it than me. I don't know. Like I said, it can be pretty bad though. But a lot of people, like you said, it doesn't extend always a lot of times to on the local level. For a lot of the people who are just out in your average church, they're just doing their own thing. They don't really know a whole lot about it.
Oh, Boogie sends $2. He says, "Are you ready for some Jesus?" Oh, it is. One of the cringiest things I ever saw. I saw Pastor Hagee, John Hagee, out in Texas, do a full Passover ceremony on his because for those of you who don't know, a lot of evangelical culture obviously is shall we say rather Zionist. Pastor Hagee, however, takes it to a whole new level. Oh, a whole new level. You've never met anyone that loves Israel as much as Pastor Hagee, okay? Dan Crenshaw, who literally gave an eye for Israel, wishes he loved Israel as much as John Hagee. And I remember seeing him perform this Passover, the full ceremony, right? And I just thought, isn't that kind of insulting to Christ? Like, wasn't that...
No, it is insulting to Christ.
Wasn't that a play... Like, I mean, he's not going over the ceremony, just so we're clear. He's not teaching you what the ceremony was, going over the steps, or anything like that. He's not... This wasn't like a demonstration so you understand what it was. He's performing that ceremony.
Yeah, well, number one, it's insulting to Christ because unless he's from the tribe of Levi, he shouldn't be performing the ceremony, or from the tribe of Aaron. I mean, right from the descent of Aaron. I mean, he shouldn't be doing anything with the ceremony. He's not Jewish, I don't think, so he shouldn't be performing the ceremony.
Ever. Delighted to present my... We would have...
let me count the ways.
Smaller, we would...
If anyone's in biblical circles knows this little video right here.
This book in defense of Israel. This book will expose the sins of the fathers and the vicious abuse of the Jewish people. In defense of Israel will shape Christian theology. It scripturally proves that the Jewish people as a whole did not reject Jesus as Messiah. It will also prove that Jesus did not come to earth to be the Messiah.
What? What? So John was wrong.
Oh boy.
Jesus didn't come to earth to be the Messiah. Wow.
I feel like he's gonna like pull a rubber mask off and he's gonna look like the merchant meme.
I have written these things so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and in believing in him you will have life in his name. But I guess he didn't come to earth to be the Messiah. Oh, okay.
No, he was gonna do something else and then he got distracted and ended up becoming the Messiah. Don't you hate it when that happens? You go to the grocery store, you just try to get some frozen pizzas. Next thing you know, you save all humanity.
Who do you say that I am? You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Oh, blessed are you, Peter, for flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Oh, but, never mind. What?
To earth to be the Messiah. It will prove that there was a Calvary conspiracy between Rome, the high priest, and Herod to execute Jesus as an insurrectionist too dangerous to live. Since Jesus
also, he agrees with Ben Shapiro.
That's exactly what Ben Shapiro says. That Jesus was an insurrectionist who got killed for his troubles.
Is it possible that Ben Shapiro is just wearing this guy's skin like the bug from Men in Black?
Well, I don't know. Does he make an Well, he's already making an advertisement, so I guess we got that down.
Well, this was years
Well, if
ago.
he starts talking about Bull and Branch sheets.
Or Birch of Gold. I'm going to tell you about this book. The first gang, let me tell you.
Okay.
Since Jesus refused by word and deed to claim to be the Messiah, how can the Jews be blamed for rejecting what was never offered?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
That's how you take me to the next level, Bechtloff.
I didn't even... I knew he was bad. I never even saw this one.
Back in the day when I first got converted, I was watching some of his videos, and so I stumbled upon this video where you're like, wait, what?
Golly.
So what else is there?
Read it in this shocking expose in defense of Israel.
Talit and tent. They're the same root word. The tent ministry didn't start with Oral Roberts. It started in Numbers. They put on the prayer shawl, quoting Psalms 104, 1 and 2. Bless the Lord, O my soul, who covers himself with light as with a garment. And then after they got through praising the Lord, then they just simply folded the prayer shawl, and they had their prayer closet instantly formed, and they prayed the delicate, sensitive prayers of forgiveness of sin or whatever else they wanted to pray, that they didn't want anybody else to hear, that they didn't want to see reported in the newspaper.
Luke, pause for a second. When I said he performed a Passover ceremony, I just want to be clear. This is a different thing. Like, I'm not even talking about this. There was another one. God.
Read the book of Hebrews. Has he ever studied that? Does he
Well,
even know
given...
that book exists?
Well, I don't know. Given the name, you might be able to get him interested in it.
Right. I mean, really? This book, yeah, I mean, it's just for you, buddy. Oh, man. You're going to love it. All right? Because, you know, the whole point of that is Jesus is better than everything that came before, than the old covenant that you seem so enamored with. Jesus is better than that. And you need to read that book.
Are you
It'd be
sure?
great.
Are you sure
know
he's...
all the context.
Are you sure he's better than Benjamin Netanyahu? I can't. It's so... I didn't even know he was this bad. Jesus didn't claim to be the Messiah. The Pharisees didn't do nothing.
In defense of Israel killing Christ.
They didn't do nothing.
This book in defense of Israel. This book will expose the sins of the fathers and the vicious abuse of the Jewish people. In defense of Israel will shape Christian theology. It scripturally proves that the Jewish people as a whole did not reject Jesus as Messiah. It will also prove that Jesus did not come to earth to be the Messiah. It will prove that there was a Calvary conspiracy between Rome, the high priest, and Herod to execute Jesus as an insurrectionist too dangerous to live.
No.
Jesus refused.
Really? Caiaphas conspired with Pilate? Where do you get that from?
Was it really a conspiracy, or was it more just Pilate saying, "Yes, please, if it'll shut you up"?
Well, no, essentially it was the Jews saying, hey, if you don't kill this man, we're going to go to the guy above you. He's going to remove you. See, the people don't understand the context here. The Jews had already been to Pilate one time. So check this out, all right? A little bit of history here. Pilate wanted to impress the emperor, right? So he put the emperor's face on a bunch of shields. And, you know, and he was basically going around saying that the emperor of Rome is God. Well, yeah, that ticked off the Jews something fierce, right? Well, they went to Pilate and they said, hey, you know, we're not good with this. You need to remove this. Pilate said, well, you're just going to have to deal with it. And that's just all it is. So they sent an emissary to the emperor. The emperor himself sent an emissary to Pilate telling him, get my face off the shields. Stop antagonizing these people. So Pilate already wasn't in great graces when it came to the emperor, and that's just one of many different instances where Pilate had already screwed up in regards to governing the Jews. So when they say that unless you kill this man, you're no friend of Caesar, that's when Pilate's like, I've got to kill him because they're just going to go over my head, and you know, the emperor's going to come and remove me. He's going to come and kill me. Tiberius is going to take me out. So it was his life or Christ's life. So he washes his hands and he gives Christ over to be crucified.
Oh, Lord. Oh man, I did not know he was this bad. I really didn't.
I'm surprised no one else has heard of this.
I mean, like I said, I knew a bunch of examples, but not that one.
You know, I always wonder, because I had someone come up to me after church. I was preaching one time, and I was preaching about how Jews needed to hear the gospel too. I said, you know, look, they need to be saved too. They need Jesus just like we do. And someone came up to me. He's like, I never heard that the Jews needed Jesus. I thought they kind of got a mulligan. And I was like, no.
I can't remember the
now
exact.
I see why. I had no idea where they got that. I mean, if
I can't remember the exact wordings, but I remember I was in high school and I wasn't a Christian at this point, but I'd still listen to some of that stuff on the TV because, you know, wanted to, mock it or something. But I remember Hagee saying something to the extent of Jews just are saved automatically. Like Jews just go to heaven. I cannot remember the exact wording. I mean, this would have been like 2000, 1999, 2001, something like that. But yeah, something to the extent of Jews just go to heaven automatically. They're just automatically saved.
Yeah, that's exactly what this person thought. Is they just thought that they were saved just because. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'd always wondered where they had gotten that, but I can see it now. If this guy is as popular as he would seem to be, I can see where.
Hagee was a major thing. Hagee, I remember in 2008, it was like he was one of the main guys trying to help McCain get elected and all. He's a major like political force for whatever reason.
No wonder we've lost so much as Republicans. Of course, I'm not even Republican, but no wonder Republicans have lost so much.
We had some audio skipping in and out a little while ago, folks. I know. Hopefully, we're all right now. I gotta mess around with the settings in this. It's because apparently this is having a hard time being in a Google Hangouts and running itself. OBS just takes a tremendous amount out of a CPU, so forgiveness.
Well, what's this all about?
With the fact that I parted company with Senator John McCain. This was by far the best for both of us and best for the country. It is time for the candidates and the media to turn their attention back to the pressing issues of our day and stop focusing upon what I did or did not say decades ago.
Oh, I remember this. Remember when they started bringing up all the what was the black pastor that Obama was under?
Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah, they started bringing up a bunch of Jeremiah Wright stuff, and this was right after McCain had cozied up to Hagee. And so, tit for tat, the left starts bringing up a whole bunch of ridiculous nonsense that Hagee started saying. And, it was one of those things where it sort of knocked the air out of the sail of going after Obama on that. So then Hagee decided, well, I'm going to just distance myself from McCain and that'll make it okay or something, which of course didn't work. But yeah, I remember that.
Boy, how times have changed.
Oh, I could do a whole show just watching Hagee clips. Good Lord. In fact, I might have to do
Dedicated
that.
my life to combating anti-Semitism and supporting the state of Israel.
He dedicated...
I mean, that's good, I guess. It's good to, not be anti-Semitic.
I just want to point out that this Christian pastor dedicated his life not to preaching the gospel, but to combating anti-Semitism.
And for some reason, YouTube decides to put the marker of what the Holocaust was. For some reason.
Well, don't go denying the 6 million there, Luke.
It just doesn't make any sense to put the little marker here because it's almost like they just.
Are you saying that it didn't happen, Luke? Is that what you're saying to us right now?
I think the YouTube.
Are you saying that
we don't know what it is?
Are you saying that Hitler and the Red Skull did not kill 6 million Jews with their bare hands? Is that what you're trying to say to us right now? Because I will have none of that on my show.
Did the Red Skulls kill any Jews? I forget.
I saw about how the Nazis wanted to get the Ark of the Covenant in this documentary. There's a guy with a fedora and a whip in it. It was great. You should check it out. Very entertaining. Oh. All right. I'm going to bring in some callers. Actually, real quick before I bring in some callers. The other thing I wanted to talk about, the Paramount released a new Sonic trailer. Now, the only thing I think is very noteworthy about it, because I still don't think it looks particularly good as a movie, in part because it's like, I'm sick of Hollywood making that same generic movie whenever they adapt something where it's like, you know, what if this thing that lives in a fantastical world was brought to Earth? Wouldn't it be weird? Wouldn't it not understand Earth? It's like, yeah, that's great. That's not actually a Sonic movie. That's that same generic movie you keep making over and over again that you shoehorn Sonic into. You did that with Smurfs. You did that with He-Man back in the 80s. It's just being cheap and lazy. That said, though, I'm rather impressed that a movie studio actually tried to listen to fans instead of just calling them incels or something. So,
but I look at this and I see the new trailer. Like, how was this not their first option?
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with the first.
I see all the beautiful animation, the backgrounds, the settings, and did they really replace him that quickly? I mean, why was this not the first option they had?
I also think it's telling that they seem to. The trailer has a completely different tone. It feels more like you'd expect a movie like this to feel like. They're not playing Gangster's Paradise in it. But yeah, that was just something I thought I'd note. I think it's very. That's sad that that's where we are. That I'm actually impressed that a movie studio isn't just telling us to fuck off when we don't like something. You know.
I mean, I want to say that there's some sort of vast conspiracy involved to create a controversy for this movie for ticket sales because of the dubious story plots. That'd be more interesting.
I got to admit, it does look it does look pretty good. It does look like, if I were to see imagine a live action version of Sonic, that would be what it would look like.
It wouldn't look like the Eldritch Nightmare next to it.
Oh man, that must be Sonic.exe.
If I were to imagine Sonic in a nightmare, it would look like that. Oh. But yeah, let's bring in some callers. There's a few people that wanted to call in, so I'm gonna go ahead and send a link to them.
This is not some fun family road trip. You're right. It was lame. Gift shop was cool though.
I don't think I like this personality. It'd be cooler if they brought back the same, somewhat serious tone from the original cartoon show.
Well, I mean, I always said I was a Sonic fan, but really I'm a fan of the original Genesis era games. I'm a fan of the old Princess Sally cartoon and that sort of thing. But everything else about the franchise I don't like. So I mean, I'm very much a fan of what constitutes at this point, I guess, 5% of the overall history of this franchise.
Yeah, the history has nothing to do with the video game, oddly enough. I mean, the Robotnik from the Salmon cartoon is like nothing at all from the Eggman that we know.
I do kind of like Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, though. That might be entertaining. I don't know. I might actually see this movie now, just because if nothing else, I almost feel like I want to pat Paramount on the head for not being assholes. Like, hey, you see that, Sony and Disney? You see how you maybe if you don't spit in the face of your audience, you might actually make some money.
I'd gladly see this over a Star Wars movie.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty low bar, but yeah, I'll second that. I think I would have seen the original Sonic the Hedgehog movie over a Star Wars movie at this point. Although everybody is... Oh, go ahead, Luke.
woman break the glass ceiling and prove once and for all that a female can be just as good an athlete as a male?
You know, Amy, anytime someone calls attention to the breaking of gender rules, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality by implying that this is an exception and not the status quo. What? Just because I'm a meathead doesn't mean I'm not a feminist.
Oh,
Hey.
Sonic Boom is fantastic.
Hey, John Steele, what's on your mind?
Yeah, could you just give me 2 seconds till I figure out the
sure.
audio thing, brother?
Oh man. So Pastor Tom, did you know that Jesus did not claim to be the Messiah?
Well,
John Hagee told me that, and he's totally not getting paid by a foreign government. He's got to be on a payroll. He's got to be on some Mossad payroll or something. There can't. There's no way that just organic. There's no way a John Hagee just organically happened.
yeah, well, someone needs to go back and tell that to the author of Matthew, and needs to tell that to John. It's kind of the points of their Gospels.
What else did I want to talk about this week? Oh, the Groyper uprising. Speaking of Mossad payrolls, Charlie Kirk, everyone.
No, I just want to say, Chris, about Charlie Kirk. I think I wrote it. You were wrong. No one loves Israel more than Charlie Kirk.
No one.
Well, I mean, as far as Christians. Charlie Kirk. I believe you said this. Was it on my stream or were we talking like on Discord? Someone asked him hypothetically, if you had to make a decision, like the Israel did something that was not in the America's best interest, who would you support, Israel or the United States?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Dan Crenshaw might get a. Dan Crenshaw lost an eye for Israel. I'll have everyone know. To be honest, I don't believe Charlie Kirk believes anything. I think that this is just solidly a grifter who saw, who got into the Conservatism Inc. and is making some money. There's some very, very interesting things going on with Turning Point USA funding and where the cash is going.
Yeah, by the way, how can I get in on that crypt?
I don't know. I guess you just gotta love Israel. I don't know how any of that. Oh man.
I don't have to give up an eye or anything, do I? Can I just,
How popular do you really want to be?
One day, I half expect Dan Crenshaw to show up with the eye patch on the wrong eye, and we all find out it was all bullshit. I sort of expect that to happen at some point.
What was that movie where it kept changing back and forth? There was some movie where...
No, that was Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Young Franken when the hump would shift with somebody on his right.
Oh yeah, Dr. Evil's sidekick, and then there was also the Sheriff of Nottingham's mole. Oh no, the King of Nottingham's mole was keep changing position in Men in Tights.
I have a mole.
That's pretty funny, Chris. Some memes could be done about that one. Yeah.
I heard that somewhere. I can't take credit for that. I heard that somewhere, but I don't remember where I heard it. But Charlie Kirk's gonna come out one day and his eye patch is gonna be on the wrong eye, and it's all gonna be over for him.
It's hard. Well, the thing about Charlie Kirk, I think I mentioned this to you, Chris, is when Charlie Kirk first came on the scene, you were saying that there was, before we get into the details of his politics, there was something about him where you wanted to like him. I think those were your words.
No, Dan Crenshaw, yeah. I liked the shtick Dan Crenshaw had. Because his first commercial, he's he's sitting there with his eye patch, and he's cutting up an orange with this big old hunting knife and eating the orange slice right off the blade, and it just looked cool, and I was like, that guy looks cool, I'm embarrassed to admit, for a hot minute, I fell for Dan Crenshaw's BS. You know,
Well, we all
until
did. I think we all did.
like yeah, you started to hear him more, and you're like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, he's a
Luke,
patriot, all right, just not for America.
Luke, what is his military service? Was he like a SEAL or something, or was he just standard army, or what's?
Let's see.
Because he's also this huge advocate. I think it was at the TPUSA. People calling that toilet paper USA.
Yeah, he was a Navy SEAL. He served with the Navy SEALs for 10 years.
Oh, he was a SEAL. Well, you know, that's a hard guy to hate.
I know, you got to respect that, man.
You got to respect that. I'm sorry. I mean, that's hard for me because I got to respect that.
Yes, I very much respect his service for Israel.
Yeah, he went to Iraq. He was first deployed to Iraq, where he joined SEAL Team 3. And he's based out of the Naval Amphibious Base in Colorado.
That's the thing, though. I've seen so many politicians hide behind the uniform, hide behind their service. I don't care anymore. Like yeah, when I first see him, I'm like, oh, that's cool, and then you know he goes on about his Israel first politics, and I'm like, yeah, fuck you. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm just so tired of it.
I don't know. You can go so far as saying I don't care, but it's like that doesn't give you a pass. I mean, the guy was a fucking SEAL, man.
Yeah, but he's a traitor at this point. His positions are treasonous. He is absolutely putting a foreign government completely above ours, or completely above his nation. So I don't care if he was Captain America out there, and I don't care. I don't care what he did out there. Doesn't make up for this. Doesn't make up for what he is now. You know, he could have been a one-man SEAL team. Could have been like a Rambo movie, where he just goes in there and just commando Schwarzenegger style, just murders like 150 jihadis with his bare hands. And I'd be like, that's pretty cool. You still need the firing squad as far as I'm concerned at this point, because you are a traitor. Dan Crenshaw, in his political career, as short-lived as it is a traitor to the United States of America. He is guilty of treason, and a sane nation would execute him for it. I'm so tired of these Israel First people. A sane nation would have would just be breaking up AIPAC, charging them. Like, enough is enough with these people.
Well, Cowardly the Dog has a question for me, but I'd like if Luke could read it.
See, where's the question? John, can you give your thoughts on the JQ? Don't think you have before.
The question was to me. I don't think I've ever touched on that topic.
Yeah, I don't know that he has. Well, I look. That aside, I'm not gonna shy away from the IQ. Okay, the Israel question. All right. Like, I'm sorry, I don't feel like I have to. I don't feel like I have to have any disdain for a certain ethnic group to maybe think that my nation's government shouldn't be subservient to another's.
Right now on the right, that scares me also. A part of American conservatism is a fair amount of nationalism as well. Patriotism and loyalty to a country, to their country, are big facets of that. I've seen many people who tout conservative ideas talk down to Jews and conservative Jews in America, or just Jews in America, because they also have loyalty to Israel, and they accuse them of dual loyalty or shilling for Israel or things like that.
That's what they say to me. Well,
yeah. I'm an American, but I'm also Israeli. I came here when I was 17. I'm by myself. Without my family, I served in the IDF.
There are people in Congress with dual citizenship in Israel, if I'm not mistaken. That ought to be illegal.
What's his name was a dual citizen? Who was Obama's chief of staff?
No dual citizen should ever hold any elected office. I don't care if it's as low as dog catcher.
But I mean, why is that applause worthy? I mean, that's the other thing is, like, with Charlie Kirk and this stuff, that's the thing that's sort of hypocritical here, is he wants to say, oh, the left, they play identity politics, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, that applauding him just because he's a dual citizen is identity politics.
Well, here's the other thing they do that drives me nuts. And I'm by no means a white nationalist. I shit on the Wignats all the time. All right? But why is it from these conservative ink people that the idea of white ethno-nationalism is not only wrong, but it's something that is so heinous it cannot be discussed in polite society, and anyone who even entertains the idea must be shunned. But Jewish ethno-nationalism is something that cannot be questioned in polite society. Israel is an ethno-nationalist state. It's not the only one in existence. I mean, you could argue, for example, Japan is an ethno-nationalist state. But Israel is an ethno-nationalist state. So don't you sit here and tell me, Charlie Kirk, that you are inherently opposed to ethno-nationalism while you mumble that phrase with an Israeli cock in your mouth.
Countries. But I see no problem in having dual loyalty. But I live here, so it doesn't bother me so much. Sorry. So my question is two-pronged. Okay, sorry about that. So it's a little bit long. Do you think that this questioning of Jewish loyalty to America will breed blatant and outright anti-Semitism on the right as well just like it has on the left? And also, do you consider the Jewish religious and Zionistic obligation to the land of Israel to be dual loyalty? And if so, what could be the ramifications of that for American Jews?
Okay. Shall I finish?
Go ahead. Yeah, I want to hear what he says about that.
I was curious, but the
First question. So just to repeat the question, if you couldn't hear in the back, I'm guessing you only got bits and pieces. Prefaced by talking about the alleged rise of anti-Semitism in the conservative movement. I'm going to challenge that a little bit. I'll agree with part of it. I'll challenge part of it. The second part was the idea of dual loyalty, and I don't like that term, and I'll tell you why. So if you didn't hear it in the back, I'm repeating it for your sake. So the first, I am as in the conservative movement as one could probably be. Anyone who is even a smidgen anti-Israel or anti-Semitic has no place in the American conservative movement, nowhere. And I denounce them, and so do all of our leaders, every elected representative, anywhere that.
And this is why conservatism hasn't conserved a damn thing.
Well, I was about to say, but transsexuals, they belong in the conservative movement, front and center.
Oh, wait, before I forget, Chris, you have to talk about the new Sprite commercial.
The new Sprite commercial?
Oh, gosh.
Why? What's the new Sprite commercial?
You don't know about that?
Well, they saw Gillette, and they decided to, they'd go that route just
Holy
about.
shit. Sorry, Tom, to interrupt you. Chris, Luke, you have.
I don't know anything. I really don't watch TV. I don't know. I haven't heard this.
I don't even have TV, but it's on. It was on
Twitter.
Well, I got banned from the Twitter. Don't forget.
You're not allowed anywhere.
What does everyone have a conniption?
I mean, I got a serious IP banning. I haven't even been able to work my way around it.
All right, Luke. Well, Luke, finish your thing, and then if it's okay for me to ask this, could you play it for? Well, I guess for the audience and Chris.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I don't.
What is it? Where is it? I don't see it.
Let me see if I can send you a link.
I thought all Sprite commercials were just aimed at black guys.
Oh, they got a whole new demographic.
Because, back in the day, Sprite just decided it was the black man soda, and the black man said, okay, fair enough.
Is it animated or no?
No.
Sprite? What is this? Is that it?
Yeah, I think.
This is why I'm a 7-Up man.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
The cool spot never pushed any kind of tranny stuff on kids.
Oh, this will be. You just know this is gonna be fun.
Oh, I'm already excited.
Break out the captain.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high.
What are you wrapping up there?
No, play it in the screen.
What?
Yeah, okay.
Is it too fast? Oh, hold on, let me fix that.
No, you didn't. It didn't start on the screen, so I want everybody else.
Oh shit!
Oh yeah, the connection.
The audience, so the audience can see what we're talking about.
Well, for those who can't see, we are looking at a young boy being touched up with makeup by the mother in the mirror, and now being directed by a younger woman to put some sort of wrap around him, some sort of brace.
I think this is a different person. I think this is a girl binding their breasts.
Oh,
God, I hate that I know that that's a thing.
What
is this?
Be afraid of the dark.
How ignorant do they think we are? This isn't this prominent. What the heck?
Give it time. Keep going.
At the end
What the heck was that? What?
I don't even have commentary. I don't even know what to say. Other than
something though.
I would like to say go drink 7-Up.
Let's see. What is it?
There's a golden sky and a sweet silver song.
I haven't seen one drop of soda in this soda commercial so far. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, sorry, sir, but you're not fooling anyone. It's the 5 o'clock shadow there.
Is this an MCU movie? Is that a new Spider-Man villain? What am I looking at here?
He's really hoping to win the Lady Gaga impersonation contest.
The Green Gobbler?
Oh, perfect. That looks like a riot. Right here, that looks like a riot. Oh, wow.
3% rise up.
That's the face of someone who knows that he won't have any children or grandchildren.
Choose what you feel when someone you love chooses to be free.
I can't wait till they.
Do you feel thirsty? Is that the answer to this? Because this is supposed to be a soda commercial. I want to remind everybody.
Free from what exactly?
I'm waiting for the.
How is this supposed to help us sell more soda? Soda.
The father drops his kid off at a gift giver's ceremony.
Ah!
Let's see. What is this? You're not alone.
There was not one drop of Sprite. Nobody drank a Sprite anywhere in the commercial.
Not a single Sprite. I have to, wait, that can't be right. I have to watch that again. There has to be a Sprite somewhere.
Wait, Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Not a single Sprite. Real quick, before I forget, because we got another caller hopping in here, I want to real quick go ahead and talk about our sponsor tonight, the good folks at Sprite. It comes in new Paz flavor. I can't. Lols1978 sends me $5. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, "Have you seen the new South Park episode with the strong woman competition?" I've heard of it. I kind of fell out of South Park a couple years ago, but I've heard it's picked back up this past year, so I think I am going to give it a shot. But yeah, oh boy, thank you very much for the super chat. Our sponsor today this week is the good folks over at Asshole Consulting. Life is full of people who lie to you. Your teachers, your guidance counselors, your media, the good folks at Sprite, and of course boomers. This puts any young person at a huge disadvantage in life since they're simply not living in reality, and all the effort they put into life is basically worthless. Cold, hard truth. That's what you want. Truth, unfortunately, comes at a price, and that price is $100 an hour. Thankfully, since Asshole Consultant specializes in truth and doesn't give a shit about your feelings, they can be blunt, direct, and honest, and most of all, quick, which cuts the average price down to about $40 per consultation. So check out my good friend Aaron Clary's site, www.assholeconsulting.com, if you need a swift kick in the ass and not some namby-pamby pussy therapist who is never going to tell you the truth anyway. That's assholeconsulting.com. And also tonight we're sponsored by 7-Up. I'm giving them that sponsorship for free. Because first of all, 7-Up tastes better than Sprite. Okay, let's be real. 7-Up is the best clear soda on the market. Second of all, 7-Up's not going to give you AIDS. All right? 7-Up is not recommended to be taken anally. Unlike apparently Sprite. So there you go.
Yeah, waiting for 7-Up to do a commercial. 7-Up will not give you AIDS.
We need these commercials right here. That's what we need.
Oh, Boogie sends $2. He says 41% rise up. ... Wait a minute. I'm gonna to not get thrown off YouTube. I'm gonna act like I don't understand that joke.
That was a necromancy joke, Chris.
Of course it was. Caller Richard, you said you had a question for Pastor Tom.
Yes, I spent the last 15 minutes trying to get the Hangouts link to work. Skype refuses. It keeps opening it up in the store. So what I ended up figuring out was, wait a minute, last time I got a link from you, it was over the Discord. So I sent you the link over Discord, then I clicked on the link and it worked.
Oh. Well, sometimes Skype, I find Skype wants to throw me into Internet Explorer, even though I never use Internet Explorer, and I don't know. Skype's every time I fix my settings in Skype and I open it up again, the settings are back to shit. I can't get the settings to stay on what I want.
It likes to open me up with Microsoft Edge. I just have to copy it and then go to Chrome and then put it in for it to work.
Yeah, I just copy links and then put them in the browser I'm using.
In the future, just send links over Discord. It will actually work. So, Pastor Thomas, I posted this on the Discord Christian General discussion once, and I want to throw it by you because I cannot find where this guy got this in Scripture. We were having a discussion on when violence is appropriate, and I brought up Jesus whipping the money changers in the temple. This motherfucker, and this is what he said, no, Jesus never hit anybody. What he did was he hit the animals in the temple and had them stampede to chase off the money changers. And I'm stunned by this because that is so much deadlier. A rampaging bull is deadlier than being hit with cords. So where does this come from, Tom? Have you ever heard of this?
It sounds like to me what he's wanting to try to do is maybe he's trying to make Jesus sort of seem softer and say that he just, he didn't really hit anybody. But I mean, gosh, I hate to be all pastor on you, but let's actually go to what it says. So, this is in Matthew 21, chapter 21, verse 12. Where it says, and Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple, and he overturned the tables of money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. And he said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of robbers. That's one of the first places. He also, it's also mentioned again in John chapter 2. Let me go write that real quick. So it says, Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem, and in the temple, where there he found those who were selling the oxen, the sheep, and the pigeons, and the money changers sitting there, and making a whip of cords, he drove them out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, take these things away, do not make my father's house a house of trade. So, I mean, the thing is with the text there is that it doesn't say that he specifically whipped them. It says that he drove them out. You could look at this in a couple of different ways. You could look at it as he was sort of cracking the whip at them to try to get them to leave. It could be that he was actually whipping them and getting them to leave. So
he was at least threatening violence.
Yes, he was threatening violence to get them to leave. And I mean, of course, the whole point is for him cleansing the house. But I mean, anyone who wants to say, in regards to violence and when violence is appropriate, and you want to get Jesus's opinion on the matter, you basically just need to read and understand the Old Testament, right? Because anything that happens in the Old Testament, Christ is affirming. I mean, because that's the same God. So when you want to understand what the Bible thinks about when it's appropriate to use violence and when it's not, you study the Old Testament.
And yeah, this you nailed it on the head when you said it's people who want to talk about this, the more passive Christians who want to think that Christianity itself is just passive and weak.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, that's the thing is that the same God who healed people is the same one who, destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And, Jesus will come, I mean, again, as the rider on the white horse, he will come down and he'll have a sword coming from his mouth that'll destroy mountains. I mean, so, he is a warrior in that sense, and he's not, again, he is described as well as, in his own way, being like a lion, which is, again, a powerful, ferocious beast. So, there is violence in the scriptures. Again, Jesus tells his disciples to carry swords. That's part of the needs that they're taking out, right? The whole passivity thing. I think a lot of people say, when Peter takes the sword and cuts off the ear of the high priest's servant, and Jesus heals it, but he really heals it more for Peter's sake than just for the sake of violence or anything. Because if Peter had killed him, Peter would have been guilty of murder, and so he would have been rightfully condemned to death. And that's what Jesus means when he says, "He who lives by the sword dies by the sword." He's paraphrasing in Genesis where it says, "If you spill a man's blood, your blood will be required of you."
Some Bible scholars think that it was boiling Sprite that rained down on Sodom and Gomorrah.
It could have been. I think the reason why Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed is because they were selling Sprite.
Everything you just said is more just affirmation of the beliefs I already had, but my question more went towards the lines of this phenomenon in the church where, like Chris says, manners over morality, where people clutch their pearls over profanity or meanness, that they want to pretend they live in a world that isn't violent, that isn't dangerous. They don't want to be hard, I guess. They want to be able to be soft. What is with
Well,
this?
I mean, the profanity is something that I can kind of understand, because I mean, in the Epistle of James, it does say, don't let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but that which is worth for building up, which doesn't mean you have to always be soft, but I think there's something that can be said there in regards to profanity and understanding that.
Here's the thing that gets me with it. I can understand somebody having a problem with profanity. I tend to think of it more as a manners issue than a morality issue, but I can understand. What I don't get, and this is what I see, like, I'll have people defending James McDonald, but getting on my case for swearing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a common tactic. I mean, and everybody mentions that here because, it's always the tone. I mean, again, I remember one time where I was having a conversation with somebody. This dude had called me a liar. He had called me an asshole. He had called me all these other things. And at one point, I was just a little sarcastic, and I had like 4 people be like, "Oh, why are you being sarcastic?" Tone. I was like, "Really? This guy said all this stuff for me. You don't say anything to him. I'm a little bit sarcastic, and then you say that I'm not being loving. Like, give me a break." But I think that's just a tactic. That's, when you can't argue with what somebody's saying, you have to go after how they're saying it.
Okay. Yeah, I see that all the time. It's just much more easy to identify with secular assholes than non-secular assholes.
Well, I mean, if you want to see what it looks like in the Christian world, just, look up Daryl B. Harrelson, look up Dwight McKisadek, look up Kyle J. Howard. You'll see all of this same kind of stuff. Now, Daryl B. Harrelson's a good guy, but, I mean, he gets the brunt of it, unfortunately, a lot of times, because he stands up to a lot of craziness. He gets said that he has a bad tone and stuff. Again, everyone thinks that what John MacArthur said about telling Beth Moore to go home, that she's not a preacher, she needs to go home. Everyone's been on him saying that, oh, he shouldn't have said that. That was mean. That was terrible. He shouldn't be a preacher anymore.
Yeah, this passive-aggressive stuff all over the place, and it's... I don't understand. That's what I was hoping to understand, but I guess there really is no understanding that kind of insanity.
Well, part of it, I think, kind of came from the fact that the church became very much, feminized. It was kind of, whitewashed. And there was a little bit of a good intention there, I guess, in one sense, because you do sort of, I mean, there's one aspect where you want to be careful about what you put into your mind, just kind of like how you want to be careful what you put in your body, but that intention, I think, got twisted into, we can't face anything dark, anything real.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make it child-friendly is what it boils down to, and what you said, whitewashed it. That's pretty much it, yeah.
Speaking of child-friendly...
Yeah?
Speaking of child-friendly, I found a new Sprite commercial with an M16 person in it.
Oh my god, that's what that was.
That's real?
I think
I
so.
thought that was a meme you threw up.
I looked up Sprite and Gabe, and then this pun popped up, so I'm not sure.
Well, I mean,
I can't tell anymore. I don't know.
I'm sure a lot of M16 people I'm sure a lot of M16 members in prison are bottoms. So it makes sense that would come up.
Oh boy, what a show I run!
Doesn't get much gayer.
And it's hashtag I love you hater.
Oh my god, he is a prison bitch. Just looking at him. Look at him.
I just want to remind everybody this episode is sponsored by 7-Up. They didn't pay me. I'm just giving it to them for free. Go buy 7-Up.
And 7-Up has a sugar-free version that doesn't taste like shit, unlike Sprite.
At least around here, it's easy to get the glass bottle 7-Up that uses the real sugar instead of the corn syrup.
Really?
It's in the in the international aisle at my grocery store because apparently it's bottled in Mexico. Because I guess
they use real sugar.
Well, hey, diabetes in New Mexico. There's a reason.
Yeah. It's just when I think quality, I think Mexico. But there you go. Also, cool spot for the Sega Genesis is an insanely underrated game. Far better than a game about
it. It was a great platformer.
Far better than a game about a soda mascot has any right to be.
It's better than Sonic.
Wasn't there?
It's better than modern Sonic.
There's before my time, but wasn't there a Pepsi video game character?
There's a Pepsi Man video game for the PS1. In Japan, all the Pepsi commercials star a superhero named Pepsi Man who just gives people Pepsi to save the day. Because Japan's weird. But he got his own video game in Japan.
Here it is.
Have you seen that? Speaking of Japan,
commercial.
Have you seen how that billionaire, this billionaire was transferring, what was it, not leadership of his company, and rather than just sending it out like a memo or doing a brief video saying, hey, this person's in charge, they did a rock star duet.
I did not see that.
Company singing a song, looking like Michael Jackson, and then the new owner comes in.
Wow. That's Japan for you.
I zoned out there. What? I zoned out. We were talking about Pepsi, then something about a rock star duet, and then someone's office. What?
Somebody transferred ownership of his company. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Right, or leadership or whatever. He's transferring leadership of his company, and so the way that he decided to let people know this is what was happening was he starts singing this show. He's got his whole stage, and he starts singing, and then he kind of backs off, and then now the new person who's stepping into leadership, he comes in too. So they're kind of having this rock star duet going on, but they're not even really singing. They're lip syncing.
You're just talking about weirdness in Japan. You're just talking about Japanese weirdness now.
Yeah. Pepsi Man.
Okay, I got you. Cute girls though. Remember the '90s when girls were cute? That was.
They also didn't have penises back then.
Yeah. I would like to live in the '90s again, even without the modern joys of the internet. the Sodom and Gomorrah of the modern day. The internet.
The '90s were my favorite decade.
The '90s were great. The '90s are when humanity peaked. It's all been downhill from there.
I think it really has. I mean, you look at this. I mean, what we've come to. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how someone credit to Pastor Tom. I don't know how you can keep your. How can you honestly believe that God has not just given up when you see this kind of stuff? I mean, I don't know how you do it.
Well, I mean, not giving up on the world, but on this country. I mean,
you see that Sprite commercial, and you're like, obviously God has forsaken us. I mean, come on.
Oh no, we are definitely under His judgment as a nation right now. No question about that. Not even joking.
I'm honestly amazed at how it had nothing to do with Sprite. It wasn't like gay dudes hanging out at the Pride Parade, and it's all this marching and bringing down the patriarchy makes me thirsty. I need a Sprite. It wasn't.
Wipes off his brow.
Back in the '90s commercials, Sprite just decided it was going to pander to black guys so hard, and I mean it kind of worked. But it would be black guys are playing basketball and then they drink a Sprite. It's a logical Sprite commercial. Okay, yeah, you play basketball, that made you thirsty, you want a Sprite. I get it. I get what you're going with there. But this is just had nothing to do with a Sprite. I honestly think if I was gay, I'd be offended at the low effort pandering there. That was.
Didn't the Gillette commercial do the exact same thing? Did the Gillette commercial?
I don't even know. That was men are bad. No, buy our razor. hey, you rapists, buy our razors. Oh man.
But, I mean, guys, I mean, I kind of forget it exactly, but I mean, I don't think they showed shaving in that, or even showed a fucking razor. I mean, it was.
It was something about men can do better. Yeah, we can do better than Gillette, apparently.
Is this the best a man can get? It's
But at least it's sorta tied into its slogan. This was just literally a bunch of gay dudes doing gay dude stuff, and then just at the end, just like Sprite, real quick, just there you go for the Sprite. Remember that Simpsons episode with Mr. Plow, where there's that really weird Mr. Plow episode or Mr. Plow commercial, and they all watch it, and Bart's like, "Dad, was that your commercial?" And Homer just goes, "I don't know." Like, I feel like there might have been a Sprite. Was that our commercial? I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's just proof. I remember having an argument with a friend of mine that's, liberal-esque, and he was saying, "Oh, it's all about the money. They're just doing this because it's like, no, that's not money. This is a specific agenda that they're pushing."
There's no money in this. It's like, okay, to some of the corporations you can say that, sure. Like, okay, they it's safe to market to gays, so they want to market to this new market. You can argue that with some, but this isn't. Nothing about this makes a gay guy want to pick up a Sprite. This commercial had nothing to do with Sprite.
Just ask that M16 guy photoed. He would.
You could easily not even notice that was a Sprite commercial.
But you see, the thing is that it's not about the money. It's about the social capital, right? Because with this whole thing, it's not enough to just not oppose it. If you are not celebrating it, if you are not pushing it, then you're against them in their eyes. So they, again, in order to have the social capital, you have to be promoting. Even if you're not going to make a lot of money in general, you have to do it because, again, their whole view is unless you are actively championing it, then you're against them. You might as well just be against them.
They don't want acceptance or tolerance. They want worship.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, because it's changed from we just want to be left alone. Now, no, you need to celebrate what we're doing.
Luke, go ahead and play that
actively, continuously.
Dad, was that your commercial?
I don't know.
God, classic Simpsons was so great. It's amazing how far that show fell, though.
The Gillette Acro Plus system with the Luber Smooth strip for the best a man can get.
Oh, man.
Mark Dice did a good parody of that.
Well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this show up because I feel the need to go out and get myself a 7-Up.